Hey Bookends! Welcome to a 10-minute book review. I'm 10. Today's review, notice I didn't say week because we're trying to get these reviews done all week. So today's review is going to be on two different books. So the first book is They Don't Make Plus Size Spacesuits by Ali Thompson. So yes, this is a collection of, it says sci-fi, but it really isn't science fiction, but a collection of stories written by Miss Thompson featuring full-figured women. So because these are anthologies and story collections, we're going to do this on a 5-star scale instead of a 10-star scale. So out of 5 stars, this book gets 3 stars. And for a rating, it's PG, it's not horrible. Some of the subject matter may be a little difficult to choke down, but it's not something that someone under the age of 13 wouldn't be able to either understand or would be overly frightened by. So, the whole point of this book being written, this collection of stories, was because Ali Thompson said that I read a lot of books. So Ali Thompson said that she did not see too many plus size women in the future. Like when we watch Star Trek, not so much Star Wars too. In The Mandalorian we're seeing this, but this is something that came about recently. So in a lot of science fiction, fat people are eradicated. Don't exist. We're not there. And the reason for this is supposed to be because fatness is a sickness, and if someone is fat, that obviously means that they're ill and unhealthy, and in the future we'll eradicate ill and unhealthy. She even brought up how when she watched WALL-E, now I don't feel this way. I'm, big. Well, I'm not huge, but I'm big. And I didn't feel this way, so I don't know if she was taking fill-ins or if this is really an issue. I don't know. But she watched WALL-E, and she says she felt bad because in the future people weren't moving around. It was kind of like being fat was a bad thing. I didn't get that from WALL-E because these people didn't have any genetic disorders. It wasn't that they liked to eat a bunch of food or anything like that. It's just they weren't mobile. So yeah, if you're not mobile, then you're going to turn to mush. I didn't see that as something directed against fat people in general, but she did, and so that was one of the catalysts for her to write these stories. What brought this collection of stories down from a 5-star to a 3-star was, one, how repetitive it is. So literally every story has an operation in it. The first one has one about making yourself shorter because being tall is supposed to be disgusting or wasteful. Another one has a surgery where they implant a device that lights up and calls you wasteful or gluttonous or something like that if you walk into a restaurant. Another one has some sort of surgery where it tells you when you've eaten too much. Another one has a surgery where it, I believe, has some kind of device that stops you from eating. I'm not sure, but each story, as you can see, they all kind of bleed into each other, so there's nothing original. The first story was really original because that was the one about height, about being too tall in a short world. That was really original, but because that was so original, every story that came after it was kind of a caricature of that one, or basically every story was basically a caricature of getting gastric bypass or some other kind of surgery that someone who's bigger might use to lose weight. And I kind of took offense to that because a friend of mine had gastric bypass and I was considering it before. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't also make you a weak-minded person for considering these sort of weight loss options. I love me some me. I have no problem with me, but I also have heart problems. And so I have to, and my heart problems didn't come along from weight, they came along from pregnancy. So I can't exercise as much as I used to before I got pregnant. So, pardon me. So for me, that was my consideration. My friend had another consideration. She had a degenerative hip issue. And so she had to make that decision. So the decision to get surgery isn't always based upon society at large saying, oh, you fat, oh, you big, oh, you... No. And to insinuate that every person who has a larger weight than others is getting some sort of surgery or considering some sort of surgery because of societal pressures is insulting, and it takes away their own... It removes purchase from a person. It removes their ability to think for themselves, to say, you're only doing this because other people don't like you. Not because maybe you feel like it's an improvement, or because you need it for your health, or because you've decided that this is something that you'd like to do. Yeah, so that was one problem. It was repetitive, and it kind of felt like it was shaming people who are plus size who may decide to get some sort of weight loss surgery. Secondly, it lost another star because it was all dismal. So the reason why she said she wrote these books is because she didn't see us in the future. There were no happy fat people. There were no happy big people. There were no happy plus size people in the future that she saw on television or in books. Either we were villains or we weren't there at all. That's what she was saying. And so her way of counteracting this is writing a speculative fiction full of dystopian accounts of fat people in the future. That doesn't counteract the things that she was saying. She said that when she saw us in the future, we were always villains or not there at all. So instead of us being villains in the future, now we're victims in the future because these surgeries are being forced on us. If we don't get the surgery, we can't be a part of society. And that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for something that felt empowering. Like, they don't make plus size spacesuits, so I'm going to make my own spacesuit. Like that kind of empowerment. Not, okay, well, in the future everyone hates me because of my weight. And I thought, sort of kind of low-key hate me too. No, that's not what I didn't get this book for that purpose. I got it because it's a science fiction, plus size, and from the way it looks, like if you look at this, it doesn't look dystopian. Let me bring it back up. It doesn't look dystopian. It doesn't look dystopian, so I didn't buy it for the purpose of the dystopian. I bought it to see myself in the future looking like me, not after losing weight, but looking like how I look now. I didn't get that. It was very depressing. I thought that, there's a collection of stories. So after the first one was dismal, the second one is dismal, and it's gonna pick up for at some point. None of the stories picked up. None of the stories picked up. They're all depressing. They're all dismal. So I would not advise anyone who is going through any form of depression over their weight to pick this book up. If you're okay with your weight, then it's cool. But if you're going through any sort of depression in regards to your weight, don't get this book. It's not going to make you feel any better. It's just going to make you feel like in the future it's going to be worse. So yeah, that is a 3-star read. Next book. Next book is Journeys. This is a collection of speculative fiction. So it's Journeys, Aussie Speculative Fiction, and it centers in Australia. So all of the stories are either supposed to take place in Australia, or arriving at Australia, or having something to do with Australia. The reason why I picked this book up is because it has one of our favorite authors in it, Elena Andrews. She wrote another book that we reviewed. We'll leave a link to it in the cards. So that was the whole reason I picked up this book. And I've never read any speculative fiction that was based in Australia specifically. So I felt like this would be a good way to kind of visit Australia, kind of. As a star point, this also got a 3 out of 5 stars. It did not reach the 5-star mark. And for a rating, it varies between PG to R, but that's to be expected with speculative fiction. Well, not speculative, I'm sorry, with anthologies. Because it's like 13 stories. So you have 13 authors writing everything from the tame to the whoa. It was speculative, so it definitely was properly named. Aside from, okay. It lost a star because it didn't take me to Australia. So I'm in America, right? I'm pretty sure that's pretty easy to tell, or I don't know, but I'm in America. And so because I'm not from Australia, because I'm not native to that part of the world, I would need certain context clues to let me see that this is Australia, and not just people saying "G'day, mate," or kangaroos running around, or wallabies, chilling out in the pool. But certain things that would bring me to Australia, like a description of the area, or a description of a landmark, or a description of daily living, or a description of what they eat. Some kind of description that would make me feel like, oh, I have left where I am and I have traveled to where you are. Unfortunately, we didn't get that in Journeys. What we did get, though, was some pretty good speculative fiction. So the book itself isn't bad. If you're into speculative fiction or science fiction, this is a good book to pick up. Some of the books are Twilight Zone, some of the stories, I should say, are Twilight Zone-esque. So if you like trippy stories with a twist, some of them are good for that. Like there was one story with the mannequin. You don't know if the mannequin is alive or not, but you do know stuff is happening. And because it's a short story, you can't quite claim who's doing it, which is kind of adds to the appeal of it, because the story ends and you don't quite know if it's all in the guy's head or if it's real. There's another one with a kind of dystopian where everyone dies at a certain age, or is euthanized by a certain age by the government. Kind of like a Soylent Green kind of thing, except it doesn't mention that anyone's being eaten at 40 or 45. It doesn't mention that they're being eaten. It just mentions that they're being euthanized at that age. And these two young men are trying to save their mom from being euthanized, and she's not for it. There are a couple of interesting ones. There's even one where someone is being sent to prison, and you end up finding out, like, it's a shock where the prison is, but the whole journey, the whole story is them being transported to this prison and the other people who are with them. And it kind of mirrors Australia's history, actually, as to how Australia was created. The thing is, it's not a bad read. It's a good read. It's worth the money. I forget how much it costs, but it's worth the money. The problem is that it doesn't take you to Australia. If you're not expressly from Australia, aside from it mentioning Melbourne a few times, I think Sydney once, it doesn't transport you to another part of the world. It transports you into different situations, and these situations are very interesting and very engaging. You're with the character the whole time, but even though you're with the character, you never actually go to Australia. I think that this book would have probably been better if it was just named Journeys Speculative Fiction, as opposed to Journeys Australian or Aussie Speculative Fiction, because I didn't really feel anything Australian about it. Not that I'm Australian, I'm not, but I didn't feel transported. The most important thing about your book is not just that people who are from your area understand it, but also people who are not from your area or don't have the same mindset, that they're able to be transported to where you are, that they're able to have an understanding of what you're talking about. And although I did have an understanding of what was going on in the book, because it was clearly written, wonderfully edited, I was not taken to Australia, whether it be past, present, or anything. I wasn't taken to Australia. And then secondly, it lost a star because a lot of the stories, I don't want to say that they're depressing, but a lot of them don't have happy endings, which I get. Life doesn't have happy endings all the time, but I think there's only 2 that had a happy ending. So once again, if you're experiencing any form of depression, I know that right now is the winter time, so a lot of people are going through that's seasonal affective disorder, something to that effect, where you get depressed because days are shorter, nights are longer, it's colder. So if you go through any form of depression, this may not be the best book for you. If you're not going through any form of deep depression, this would be a good, it's a good book. It's not a bad book. is worth the money. I would just say that if you're already going through something, this may not be the best one to read right now. You could pick it up and then read it later maybe. So all in all, both books, they don't make spacesuits, so they don't make plus size spacesuits. And Journeys, Aussie Speculative Fiction, both were 3 stars for different reasons. Yeah, so hopefully we'll see you guys back tomorrow. Tu's taking a brief sabbatical, so hopefully, but she's still like watching and stuff, so hopefully we'll see you guys back tomorrow with another book review. Thanks so much for checking in, guys, and have a great night. Oh, and if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, Bookends.